I wonder if I have fans out there.
You do.
If it's too early for me to have fans.
No, it's
Please
not too early.
reveal yourselves.
Well, I think you're going to have like creepy fans who don't really want to reveal
Creepy,
themselves.
non-creepy, normal.
It's different than with Studio Steve.
Well,
I mean, I get like, I'm just smothered by my fans all the time. And I have fans
but I didn't have my coffee paid up this morning.
That's true. That's what I'm saying. We're at Starbucks this morning. The lady in front of us is just eyeballing me, undressing me with her eyes. And we get up to the window and she's like, yeah, she paid $5 towards your order. Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah. She paid for your coffee.
She was a very beautiful woman, but she had strange hands. And you can't trust those kind of hands.
Okay. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Pod Sound School podcast. We help entrepreneurs, business owners, content creators, podcasters to plan, develop, launch, and promote a successful podcast.
Yes, and today's episode is all about finding your podcast voice.
Yes.
But before we dive into the episode, we have a new patron.
We do.
Our new patron is Sandra Part. That's my mom.
Yes.
And she was great. She actually pledged more than our tiers. So Thank you, Mom.
Thank you, Sandy.
Thank you so much for being our patron. And also come over and check us out at patreon.com/podsoundschool.
Yes.
We call it our Overachievers Club.
Overachievers Club.
If you're listening every week, if you're checking our YouTube channel, checking in on our podcast and you like what we do, it's a perfect opportunity for you to help us out, to help us to keep the doors open to the Pod Sound School, and to continue providing free content to all sorts of podcasters.
We have great projects and ideas that we would like to execute, but we need more resources. We need to hire more people. Your pledge will help us to grow.
And you'll get a nice, warm, fuzzy feeling in your heart. And we also have some bonus videos for our patrons and stuff like that over there. And we're constantly thinking of new creative content we can post over there.
So go check it out.
Go check it out. Also, before we dive into the episode, if you guys haven't downloaded our Jumpstart freebie that we have, it has a ton of information. If you're just getting into podcasting, make sure you download that freebie. It's a Jumpstart Your Podcast freebie, and we're going to leave the link in this episode's description. Yeah,
we put a lot of time and effort into this freebie, and it will walk you through the beginning to up until the launch of your podcast. It's very helpful.
Yeah. And with that, let's jump into the episode.
Let's get into this episode,
Finding your podcast voice.
So I got inspired to put this episode together from one of our clients. She's working on launching her podcast right now. And she is in the process of finding her voice, in the process of feeling comfortable with the microphone, and in the process of feeling, all these feelings and insecurities about if you're going to connect with your audience, if it's going to sound like you. And these are the same insecurities I've had at the beginning of this journey as a podcaster, and I still have those insecurities. So we decided to put this episode together to help you out.
Yeah, and I think that when you're first starting a podcast, that's like the first concern. I think it actually holds a lot of people back from starting a podcast. Because it's like, do you want to have a radio voice like, hey, welcome to the Pod Sound School. This is another episode where we're going to talk all about podcasting.
I don't think you want to do that, no.
I know, but depending on, the content, maybe it would be helpful. So yeah, your voice is probably the single most important tool when it comes to your podcast. And a lot of your voice comes from confidence. It's a mindset, right? So what's the first thing we want to cover with this episode?
So this episode is divided in two sections. The first one being the finding the tone for your podcast, depending on the information that you're delivering. And then the deliverance, which is the physical act of speaking into the microphone and speaking the words out loud. So finding the right tone for your podcast. For this, we found a very interesting article And the article is on the Spreaker blog and is written by Georgia Gray.
Yeah.
And it walks us through the different tones that you can have with your podcast.
Yeah, common different tones. The first one is journalistic. So that's your NPR tone. That's where a formal tone is required and expected. And this conveys authority and credibility. And it's very common to speak in a lower pitch and very clearly and very enunciated. And you'll put emphasis on key facts.
Like time and places.
And this is probably one that takes the most discipline and practice. You don't want to over enunciate, and you keep a steady tone, and you don't put emphasis on words that imply your personal opinion. So you try to have a non-biased tone,
neutral tone. The intimate, and this one, I think it's not a secret that I'm a fan of Kathy Hiller's Don't Keep Your Day Job podcast. And she usually starts her podcast with talking about a personal experience. And when she does this, then she uses that intimate tone. It's a very low, and she just gets you into her experience. So you're right there, like having a conversation with your, a heartfelt conversation
like
with your best
with your friend.
So with this intimate tone, you're sharing personal, intimate details, and you want to be as natural as possible. You want to sound honest. You don't want to sound rehearsed. And imagine that you're talking to your best friend one-on-one.
Another tone that you can have is a reassuring tone. And with a reassuring tone, this is where you make the listeners feel safe in your hands. I like to think of this as when you go to your mother or somebody.
Your therapist.
Yeah, or a therapist, you know, somebody who makes you feel better about a situation or reassures you that everything's going to be okay. That's a really powerful tone, and it's soothing, and it creates trust and opens up the opportunity for sharing.
Now, the informative and educational, the main goal is to convey reliability and credibility. You have to be confident that you know what you're teaching, and that's going to translate into a good listener experience. You want to have a steady tone. You want to communicate clearly and with confidence. And you want to sound like a trusted source. Like you know your stuff.
You know what you're talking about.
And don't speak too quickly, add pauses, and be careful with sounding condescending or patronizing.
Yeah, and that's with the tone. That's something I've struggled with quite a bit because I'm a know-it-all, and that comes off, I think, sometimes in my tone when we're doing the educational content here with Pod Sound School. Another tone is a storytelling tone. This is a favorite tone of mine. This is where you could be very outrageous. You can just be creative.
It's like role-playing a little bit,
yeah, role-playing. You can be animated. You know, you can use different voices. And with a storytelling tone, be as natural as you can. Be yourself, you know, just like you're telling a story to your friends as well. And be creative with placing emphasis on certain words. Let's move on to Deliverance. This is the physical act of talking into the microphone. So that's the other aspect. First, it's your voice, and that's your most important tool. Then the next most important tool is the microphone. So the first thing here is that it starts in your mind. Your mindset is everything. You have to find your own voice, be yourself, and just own it. Own your suckage, too. Embrace what makes you, you.
Yeah.
Laugh, snort. Those little quirks, that's what's going to make you stand out from the other
crowd.
7,000.
There's a lot of people in doing podcasting, but there's only one you.
Yeah.
So it's okay to be different, and it's okay to bring those differences into your recordings.
Yeah. So now let's move into talking about preparation and warm-ups. The first one that Veronica likes a lot are wide ABCs.
So, and this, I had a voice coach.
Yeah, so
to help, and she helped me tremendously with my confidence. Her name is Tawny, Platis, and we're gonna drop a link to her website here on the episode description. She just helped me tremendously, and I had an intense homework to do every day. And one of my exercises was the wide ABCs. And those are pretty fun. And you record yourself doing those ABC warm-ups and send me the video.
Yeah, please do. We would love to see those videos.
I will post it on my Instagram.
Yeah, those will be reshared on our stories like crazy. And a lot of these are really fun to record yourself doing, and vocal coaches also recommend that.
Yeah.
And the wide ABCs, it's like it sounds, you just open your mouth really wide and do the ABCs.
It just helps to get those muscles on your
the
mouth
frontal muscles.
and the frontal muscles in your face and your mouth and your throat to open up.
Yeah, there's different resonators or different chambers in how our voice is produced. It's an acoustic instrument. And there's our chest, there's the larynx, or I guess you could say the throat, the chest, and then the different areas of the mouth. The whole idea is to utilize all of those and have a nice balance between all of those different areas. Then another one is mirror videos, making videos of yourself talking in the mirror.
She also recommended to watch TED Talks.
Oh, yeah. Because they are just fantastic speakers. They're great. Anyway, and then we really like this warm-up video. It's an NPR video, and we'll leave the link in this episode's description. On that video, they address a lot of the common vocal problems and talk about some exercises you can do for those vocal problems. The first vocal problem is low vocal energy, and that just sounds like what it is. That's just not having a lot of vocal energy when you talk. And that usually comes from poor breath support. So the exercises there are all about opening air flowing freely through the body. And this is actually one that Veronica's voice coach had her do that was hilarious to watch. But they do it in this too, where you act like and breathe like different types of dogs. So you start with small dogs and go up to the large dogs. So you start with a Chihuahua. And could you do a little Chihuahua breath, Veronica?
And you have to like...
Yeah, and you got to put your paws up. And I think it's like really fast too, right? After a big breath. And then you move on. And yeah, it's really wonderful. And then you move on to a Labrador who has a little bit... It's more in your ribs.
Then if you do this standing, it will be better.
Yeah.
Right now we're sitting down, but you want to put your hands on your
rib cage
or your torso, and you want to do a more a deeper breathing, like right.
And then eventually you become the big Saint Bernard, where you do like really deep breathing, and it's all down in the bottom of your chest and your belly. Yeah. So that's really cool. That gets that air moving through your body.
Yes.
And then you'll notice after you do that, you'll be a lot higher energy. You'll feel better. There's more oxygen in your brain. So that's really cool. The next issue can be vocal fry. And this can actually become a medical issue. And it's kind of like a lot of those you hear is when your voice is fried. And that's where it's really important to use your lips and your teeth and the front of your mouth so that your vocal cords don't get hurt and get injured, and you don't wind up needing throat surgery. So there's the horse exercise where you would make yourself sound like a horse, or just okay. That was really fun. And you'll notice after doing that, then you're going to be using more of your lip muscles and everything. And it's just really cool to get these habits in mind. When you are podcasting, you are doing more of a performance, and you will be articulating more, especially as you go on and you start perfecting your podcast voice. So it's really important to warm up like you would with a physical exercise, because it is very much a physical exercise. And then the other problem that people have is with scripted voices, or when your voice sounds too scripted. And what are some suggestions?
So one of the things that you can do is to read your script or read a paragraph using an accent. And I don't know how to do American accents. You know better, like the Texan accent or the...
Yeah, you could do an Alabama or Texan or You could do a really bad British accent or something, but or like in the video, she does an opera singer, like sing your script in opera.
Or temper tantrum.
Or temper tantrum as a little kid, yeah. Read your script. And that's just great, and that can loosen up and give you a different relationship with the words you're reading.
Another thing that I covered with my voice coach was articulation. I had some issues with articulation. Sometimes when you are speaking in a second language, you want to talk as fast as the natives talk. And you think like if you talk faster, then people are not going to notice the mispronunciations, and you don't want to do that. You want to speak slow and you want to enunciate. Something that can help you with this is to read your script out loud and exaggerate your articulation.
People don't see your other forms of communication that you normally have with your body language and stuff. So you have to compensate for that with over articulation. One thing that really helps with that is tongue twisters.
I cannot say a tongue twister. Help me.
Rubber baby buggy bumpers.
Rubber
baby
rubber baby
buggy bumpers.
Buggy bumpers.
Buggy bumpers. Rubber baby. Say like fast, like 5 times. Rubber baby buggy bumpers. Rubber baby buggy bumpers.
Rubber
baby buggy bumpers.
Rub your mocos.
Okay. We digressed big time. So
and another thing that that she taught me was to wear comfortable clothes.
And stretch and move your body. Get loosened up and comfy. And then just learn from your past mistakes by listening to your recordings and take note of mistakes or the things you want to improve. Like, so that's really good with articulation. And then now we can move on to technique. And this is just like microphone technique. With microphone technique, you would like to invest into a good microphone. If you're just starting out, that's one thing, but as you progress, you definitely want to invest into a decent microphone. And then be at a correct distance from that microphone. A lot of people do like the 3-finger or 4-finger rule. That's pretty cool. I like to get a little closer than that myself. Using a pop filter or 2 pop filters is really nice to help with plosives and the heavy P sounds that come from our mouth. And then to stay constant with the distance that you decide to be at with the microphone is really important. I like to think of that or call it the sweet spot. Also, people ask, well, is there a correct angle? And there is. Depending on what angle you are coming to the microphone at, it will change the relationship between your voice and the capsule and the microphone. Yeah, and you'll get a different sound. And the EQ of your voice changes and everything else. So as you start leaning all the way to the left or the right of your microphone instead of right in that center sweet spot, the EQ, the tonal quality of your voice will change because of the relationship with the microphone, which makes mixing and EQing a little more difficult than editing and makes your voice less articulate, really in the long run. And there's lots of tips. One thing that I use when I'm using a pop filter is I like to feel the pop filter on my lips and on my nose. A lot of singers will do that too. The other thing is, should I stand up? Yes, if you want to, definitely try that. There's a lot of podcasters who do stand up for everything. They just notice they speak better. Standing up can help with all of the problems we talked about. It can help with the scripted voice. It can help with the vocal fry. It can help with low vocal energy. It can help with enthusiasm, breath control, all of that. And then another question people are always asking is, should I wear headphones? My biggest reason that I would recommend wearing headphones is because you can start to hear the sweet spot, and you train yourself to hear when you get out of the sweet spot. If you're listening to headphones, you can hear that happen. So when you look over at your co-host and you're being all wacky, it's like, oop, I got out of my sweet spot. So it helps with that. And yeah, that's it. And then the other thing is presentation.
That's our last point.
Yep.
Avoid filler words like well, or right, and I do that all the time. But if you do, then if you have a good audio engineer editing your podcast.
You have somebody editing your podcast that can cut out all
they
those
can cut out those, which
but that's
in my
gonna
case,
be time and cost heavy. So
in my case, I have the best audio engineer, and he makes me sound smart.
And his name is Studio Steve.
He makes me sound very smart by taking those out.
All the all the staggering, all of that out. But if you're doing something where you're not going to have that, then it's important to practice these things.
And I noticed that when I'm not feeling confident with my script, when I didn't have enough time to prepare, that's when I tend to use those more.
Mm-hmm.
So make sure that you have enough time to prepare and that you dominate your script.
Yeah. And then the other thing is to smile.
Yes.
And this makes me remember my days in telemarketing. We actually had a mirror on our computer monitor, and the team lead would come by and say, "You're not smiling," and it was horrible. But it's crazy that way your voice sounds when you're smiling, and to smile and to laugh, and it totally changes the way your voice sounds as you're talking. That helps with all of the issues that we mentioned as well. Helps to activate those frontal muscles in your lips and in your mouth, and it also helps with your energy levels.
Yeah, my voice coach, Tawny, she used to ask me all the time, "Are you smiling? Are you smiling?"
Yeah, are you smiling?
You
And
sound like you're not smiling. And I wasn't.
And then you take a breath. Breathe a lot. And then practice, and get feedback.
That's very important.
That's all it is practice. But when you're practicing, it's not like practicing isn't just getting in front of a mic and talking like you always talk normally. Practicing is actually making the effort to, I'm going to try to articulate more on this episode.
Yeah, I'm going to watch videos. And if you have the resources, I'm going to hire a voice coach.
Yeah.
And I'm going to follow the steps of the program.
Especially if you are someone who might not have the most naturally fun voice to listen to. And we run into this a lot with, businesses, and there's so many people that are interested in having a podcast, but they're like, I don't think my voice would be very nice. Then you definitely might need to put some work into fine-tuning your vocal instrument.
Yeah.
Which I just have to say, side note, is a huge benefit of podcasting. Podcasting helps your public speaking skills. It helps your articulation skills.
Helps your confidence.
Your confidence, your charisma, all of that from podcasting. What else? Hydrating and taking breaks.
Yeah, that's important. And stop trying. Just let it flow. The more you try, the more it's going to sound like you're trying. So you just want to ease into it and don't make it sound like you're forcing it. Just have a good time, enunciate, hydrate, do your stretches.
Yeah.
And, get help from videos and voice coaches.
Yeah. And be okay with sucking at first.
Yes.
And don't let perfection get in the way of progress.
Yes.
And then I think this is a perfect last point for today's episode, which is have fun. That's something we try to include in everything we do.
Yes.
To stop ourselves throughout the day and say, are we having fun? If you're not having a good time, mix it up. Think of ways you could have more of a fun time. And with that, that's pretty much all we have to say.
Yes.
Don't
Don't forget to follow us on social media at Pod Sound School. Follow me on Instagram. And you can follow us on Twitter as well.
If you want to get a hold of either one of us, Veronica hangs out on the Instagram.
Yes.
I hang out on Twitter. You can also email me, studiosteve at podsoundschool.com. Podsoundschool.com is also our website.
Also, we have a Facebook group. It's called Podcasting for Buses. We're growing our community there. We're doing all sorts of fun stuff. There's other podcasters, entrepreneurs that you can rely on, ask questions, be part of the community.
And thank you so much for tuning in week by week. We could tell by our analytics that there's a lot more of you listening than we know. And we want to get to know you more. So please just come say hi.
I want to know if I have fans.
Yeah, tell Veronica that you're her fan, please.
I want to know if I have
so many
fans.
You can leave me out of it. It's fine. Okay, because people are always buying me coffee everywhere I go. But Veronica needs some validation.
I do.
She's a hardworking mamacita, and she needs some damn validation.
I do.
And we love you guys, and until next time, happy
casting.